Hey, it's Lee for On Your Marks Wrestling, and I'm here with an NXT review for April 18th. We start the show with a graphic for Bruno Sammartino, who passed away today at the age of 82. Then we get into the show, and Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae come to the ring. Gargano says that Ciampa had been haunting him, but that since he defeated him, he's now regained his life. He thanks the fans for supporting him throughout, and he thanks his wife, Candice, for doing the same thing, gives her a hug. She takes the mic and she announces that she's going to take on Zelina Vega tonight. And then he takes the mic and says, well, now that I've taken care of the Ciampa thing, I want to challenge Aleister Black for the for a championship. I don't know why that's such a hard word for me to say now. So we move on to a behind-the-scenes kind of, I think it's on the rooftop or something like that, Killian Dane promo where he's kind of staring out into nothing, which makes it weird. But he says he's going to bring the chaos to Lars Sullivan tonight. And then well, that's pretty much it, but he turns to the camera to deliver that last little bit of the line. I thought at least he'd look to the camera and made it a little bit more normal. Good intensity in this promo. I just really don't get the whole looking into nothing. Like, when they're doing the interview and they're looking at nothing, it's a little weird, but this was especially weird because it's like a promo. He's not talking to anyone. It's just very strange. Then we get a Ricochet versus Fabian Aichner match. The match actually is fairly short. Early on, there's kind of exchanges of cool athletic spots. Eventually, Ricochet hits his 630 for the win. It's exactly the kind of opening match Ricochet should get. My only issue with it is that I wish it wasn't Fabian Aichner. I actually really like Fabian Aichner. And it's not just because he liked one of my tweets once. I actually think the guy's very talented, and I don't feel like squashing him is necessary. I feel like that guy could have gone probably twice as long with Ricochet and made a really special debut versus this kind of forgettable debut in terms of TV. It's fine. But Ricochet's 630 is a cool move. It's like a really cool move. That's all that you really need at the end of the day. Aichner is going to survive this, and I honestly think he's going to go on to bigger and better things. I don't think he'll ever be a superstar, but I think he's pretty darn good. After the match, Ricochet is interviewed. He's completely out of breath. He basically kind of rattles off a bunch of names of people that were in NXT who are now really successful in WWE. And then he says it's his time to shine in NXT. So that's about it. It's fine. It's a good guy promo. It's what you should do. Then we have a Lars Sullivan promo where he doesn't say all that much. He basically says that people are going to see a real-life freak of nature. But it's shot in a way that's kind of cool. It's basically shot straight up at him. And I think he's got the night sky behind him, or at least it's dark. And I just thought it was a well-shot promo. This whole episode was full of promos. It's crazy. Then we get the in-ring debut of the War Raiders, formerly known as War Machine, and they're against JC and Chris, two jobbers who I couldn't tell apart. There's a running knee by Rowe right off the bat. Rowe's the smaller of the two guys, but he's still a big guy. But it looked really, really cool. Then there's a Hansen, who's the larger of the two War Raiders. Does a perfect cartwheel. It's very impressive. It's better than Bam Bam Bigelow's cartwheel. For a man that size, it's very impressive. And then they hit their finisher. It's a sidewalk slam, essentially, and slash a top rope leg drop. That's cool. That's a cool finisher. I like it. The match in this case was correct. They squashed two guys who are jobbers who have never kind of had a competitive match in NXT, and they showed all their cool moves. It was perfect. Then we get a kind of weird performance center segment. Baszler says, there's a meeting going on right now, but I'm late, but I don't care about those things, thus establishing her rebelliousness. She gets into the meeting and essentially interrupts Serena Deeb, who's addressing the women. And then she tells them to get in line behind her or they're going to get run over. And she also kind of rips off Ember Moon's name from a locker and takes it over. There's a really quick video promo of Kona Reeves. He's now the Finest with a kind of longer head of hair. That's okay. Kona Reeves has changed kind of personalities 3 times so far, but he's never really been established enough to even win a match, so it's strange that he's had to go through so many personas. Maybe just, at some point let him win a match, and that'll build his persona, but the Finest is a fine kind of personality. There's a parking lot interview of Pete Dunne. He doesn't say all that much. He says he's leaving, but he'll rip Roderick Strong's head off. So because the person asked him what his feelings towards Strong were. So then we get the match between Lars Sullivan and Killian Dane. It's kind of like a double main event today. Lars Sullivan, he blocks a Dane suicide dive, essentially, and shortly after hits a suplex on the outside. This is a no DQ match. Sullivan goes to the top rope and hits a clothesline to the outside of the ring. It's cool that the guy's willing to do that kind of stuff, but I find these kind of not necessary moves for a person his size, especially a guy who wears a knee brace all the time. In the ring, there's a top rope headbutt, a la Bam Bam Bigelow. It hits, near fall. Dane's nose is busted up at some point. I don't know how it happened, but he's bleeding up quite a bit, which is I always enjoy it, to be honest with you. I know it's not nice to see someone injured, but I find it adds to the match. Dane hits his kind of combo of a slam, a senton, and a Vader bomb. He gets a near fall out of it. Sullivan tries another top rope headbutt, and he hits his head into a chair after he misses it. Sullivan then shortly after, is kind of woozy and standing in front of a table that Dane has set up in the corner. Dane tries to do the divide, which is basically a running crossbody, and Sullivan catches him, which is always impressive. He's done it once before, but I'm still very impressed. Shortly thereafter, though, Dane does hit the divide on Sullivan through the table. Again, doesn't get the 3 count, though. Dane hints at a coast-to-coast, which never really materializes. And then Sullivan eventually hits a freak accident onto a chair that's on the mat, and gets the win that way in the no DQ match. I thought this match was good. These guys have pretty decent chemistry for 2 big guys. They're willing to take some chances. I like it. I'm going to get my other notes out here. So then we have a little video package explaining why LeRae and Vega have a feud going, basically showing their husband / business employee partner. I don't even know. The match makes you appreciate a few things. First of all, the first note I made was that Vega used Andrade's music, so I don't know if she's going to be a full-time wrestler or if she's going up with him on the main roster and whatnot, but she didn't have her own music, which was interesting to me. I wrote, LeRae is small, because she is relatively small, but Vega is tiny. You don't really appreciate how tiny she is until she's in a ring standing next to LeRae, who's small, standing next to a ref, the only female ref they have in WWE right now, who is not a giant by any means, but looks like a complete giant next to these two. We have very early on, LeRae kind of takes the lead, and then she goes to the top rope, and Almas pops out, and he's on the apron, and it distracts her, allows Vega to kind of knock her down. Excuse me. Gargano comes out to kind of even the odds, eliminate the Almas issue. Vega very early on attempts a hammerlock DDT, but gets rolled up instead for a 2 count. LeRae hits a really, really nice looking missile dropkick. I thought it was perfect. She also then hits essentially like it looks like she's trying to do a Rana, but she head scissors, like a flying head scissors essentially, and takes Vega down into the head scissors and then converts it into a Gargano escape. Almas tries to interfere and Gargano jumps in and he hits Almas with the exact same move, so you basically have kind of side-by-side submissions, one real, one official, one unofficial. Vega eventually does tap out to LeRae, so LeRae wins her first match. And yeah, then we have Gargano. He grabs a mic and he basically calls out Aleister Black. And Black, without saying much else, basically just says, "All right, you got it. You got your match." So basically, we're going to have a Gargano Aleister Black match next week. Overall, this was a pretty good episode of NXT. I thought the last match kind of was a bit of a dud compared to the previous match. Like the Sullivan and Dane match was much better. I kind of wish they would have let the women be the whole story of that final match. But still, got a bunch of debuts. You got to see, like, probably the most exciting people on NXT right now. The old guard all lost on the way out, which is typical, and that's fine. I would say this episode was an 8 out of 10. I thought it was really quite good. All right, thanks for watching. See you soon.